Janice, it's interesting. I remember when somebody once asked me about you, and I said, Janis Saffell is like the Hugh Jackman of fitness. Because you think of Hugh Jackman, he sings, he dances, he's on Broadway, he's a superhero, and you're kind of like that too. You've got over 30 years of experience as a fitness leader, presenter, health advocate. What I didn't know is you've been classically trained as a ballet dancer, gymnast, kickboxing, and martial artist, and national and world aerobics champion. Over 400 videos under your belt. You even assisted Jillian Michaels with the launch of one of her products called Fit Fusion. You've got your own streaming service, JFit TV, which I always thought was a very cute name. Oh, and in your spare time, you help fix houses with Habitat for Humanity. For today, I wanted to talk about what you've been doing recently, and that is you've been helping women over a certain age with their hormones and their health and wellness. Speak a little bit on what you've been doing these last several weeks.
Well, thank you first off for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited, and that intro was amazing. So thank you. So throughout my years working in the fitness industry and teaching fitness professionals and then teaching the consumer and maybe the listeners that you have on your show, just live a healthier, brighter life and being able to take their fitness to a new level, working with their nutrition, and then being able to move their bodies to live their best life. And what I have found, especially now with working with 40 plus individuals, females and males together, is noticing that it's so important to get our hormones under wrap because that can create a huge, create major havoc in our system when our hormones are kind of out of whack. And I think people make things a lot more difficult than what they need to be, especially for your diet and your nutrition. And just making simple little changes and creating healthy habits along the way can make such a big difference in how your body kind of works and being able to release fat and stress and have more energy. And there are some key things that you can do in order to help that process along.
What are some of these lifestyle habits that can help modulate women's hormones after that certain age?
I think the biggest thing is talking about the superheroes that maybe your listeners may have never heard before. So there are 4 doctors that you want to think about when creating a really healthy environment for your body and mind and spirit. So you've got the first one is your Dr. Diet. You've got Dr. Sleep, Dr. Movement, and Dr. Quiet. So all of these need to be able to harmonize together in order to have a balanced, healthy lifestyle. So if we think about Dr. Diet, that is basically fueling your body with the superfoods. So being able to eat really, really healthy, not all the time, but the majority of your meals should have some superfoods in there to help balance out hormones. Then a lot of people don't think about Dr. Sleep. So sleep has a huge impact in our health and vitality. And if we're not getting enough sleep, that can also cause some imbalances in your hormones. So it is super important to get a restful night of sleep. Then, of course, you have Dr. Movement. You have to move your body every single day. And I don't care if it's 5 minutes. I don't care if it's 20 minutes. Give yourself some movement to help your body evaluate your metabolic rate and get the heart pumping and have a little sweat. And the number one thing that I tell my clients is if you stop moving, your body then starts to feel it. You get achy, your joints get stiff. And so we've got to be able to lubricate those joints. And so Dr. Movement is going to be super, super important. And then the other one that we might not think about is Dr. Quiet. being able to re-energize our batteries, taking some quiet time just to reflect on our needs and what we want. And I think a lot of women have a big problem with that Dr. Quiet, because women are caretakers and always are trying to take care of the kids and the husband and the boyfriend and whatever. And so Dr. Quiet is so important to be able to re-energize your batteries in order to create hormone health. And I know it can be a struggle, and especially once we get into those 40s and 50s and that weight gain starts to come in, it is about balancing all of these four doctors in order to live a healthy lifestyle.
I agree completely. I kind of just basically say something similar. We got to eat, we got to drink, we got to move. But the quiet is so important. We all need to decompress, take some quiet time for ourselves, whether it's read a book or meditation or even take a nap, or just sometimes just sit down in a quiet room and watch your rerun of your favorite TV show.
Absolutely.
And what you said about the movement is really true too. True story for me during this crazy pandemic that we've been through. I started developing this really nasty pain in my left scapula. My shoulder blade was hurting a lot. I couldn't sleep, and what was happening? I wasn't moving. I was sitting in front of the computer all the time. They closed the gyms, and they didn't want you to go out. And I started getting this nasty pain in my left shoulder blade, just mostly because I was sitting in front of the computer, just working. The only thing that really stopped it, I said, I'm going to a local track and I'm going to start, walking around the track, do a little jogging, running up and down the steps. And in about a month or less, it went away. So yeah, we got to move. And if we don't move, things break down. We get back pain, all kinds of stuff happens when we don't move. We were designed to move. We're now in a society now where people just don't move that much anymore. And that's, you can see that just by the rates of type 2 diabetes, which have been skyrocketing in this country over the last several decades. I even redesigned my office a little bit. I bought a standing desk, which is, I'm sitting as I'm talking to you, but I got a standing desk as well. And every once in a while, my little Apple Watch goes off and says, hey, stand up, genius. And I'm like, okay. When you mentioned like hormonal disruptions, how does somebody know if their hormones are kind of out of balance? Are there any symptoms that someone may notice that may signify that maybe their hormones may not be as optimal as they should be?
Number one is weight gain. So if you haven't changed anything in your diet or your workouts or lifestyle, and you see that the scale is moving in the direction you don't want it to go in, a lot of times it's going to be hormone imbalance. Another one is low energy, night sweats. There are so many different hormonal disruptors that can happen, and the biggest one that I find is weight gain and loss of energy and sleepless nights, and the night sweats are going to be basically the top ones that I hear from my clients. And it can be a huge roller coaster. You can have mood swings and just, the trouble sleeping, not being able to go to sleep, waking up in the middle of the night. These are all things that can be happening if you have hormonal imbalance. And so I'm sure a lot of your listeners have faced these. I have too. But guess what? There are some awesome holistic tricks to tackle these symptoms. And it can be as simple as just changing a couple things in maybe your lifestyle, creating really good healthy habits, and then adding specific superfoods. And here are some really simple tricks, is just adding chia seeds. Chia seeds are great because they're an essential omega-3. They help to balance that roller coaster of cycles and to help calm your mood swings. So chia seeds are such a great superfood, and sometimes we don't even think about, again, I try to go back to being simple. Sometimes it's the simple things that can make a huge difference in hormonal balance. And so trying to balance those out. And then another great one is turmeric. So just being able to put some turmeric maybe in, I don't know, if you're doing like a tea or a smoothie. Smoothies are always great. And I always go back to smoothies because you can hide a lot of things in a smoothie, especially if you're not fond of different superfoods like kale and, things don't taste good, stick it in a smoothie, because then you're not going to taste it. And it's just something that you can get really nutritious, jam-packed to help balance out your hormones. But turmeric is a great secret hormonal hack. It's a super spice that helps you to soothe menopause symptoms, and it's easy to be able just to put into your smoothie.
I've done that myself. I start my morning with a smoothie, and you might not want to know what I put in my smoothie, but it's broccoli, lima beans, all kinds of stuff. But you're right. You can hide a lot of stuff in a smoothie. And of course, I mix it with chocolate protein powder, because if it tastes like chocolate, I can eat or drink anything. But tea and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it's people look at me funny when I tell them what I put in my smoothie. Like, really? Lima beans? Yeah, lima beans. It's a good source of choline. Choline helps you make acetylcholine.
Yeah, and beets. Like, I'm not fond of beets at all, but if you put it in a smoothie, you don't taste it. And it is such a great superfood for you to help balance out those hormones.
What do you think about avocado?
Oh, avocado is so good for you, and it's a great superfood for bringing in some great essential fats into your system. And a lot of people too are afraid to eat fat, but it's the good fat that you want, and that's going to also help to stabilize your hormones. So avocados are one of the best superfoods that you can put, and it's good for your skin, it's good for your whole body and all those hormones that are released in your system. So eat your avocado. One of my favorites is definitely avocado toast. It's so yummy. Hormones can be tricky, right? Especially when weight gain and you have the loss of energy and things are just not going your way, and it can be very frustrating. And I understand that. And I work a lot with my clients on the frustration part. And, it can be a merry-go-round. You can feel really crazy, and it gets worse as we age if we don't dial it back in and try to help those hormones become balanced. Another great one is flax seeds. So flax seeds are loaded again with omega-3s, and these are tiny powerhouses, and that they can actually help keep your estrogen levels in check. So that's a huge one, especially if you're going through menopause, if you're premenopausal, or if you've finished. That flaxseed is going to help with balancing and keeping that estrogen in check. It also is going to help with your weight management. So another one that people might not think about is maca root. So maca root is a great energy wizard, and it gives you a high five to your adrenal glands. And this is going to help you stay energized. And so if you always have those afternoon lows and you need that quick pick-me-up with a coffee, if you use some maca root into your smoothie, that's going to help energize you. And it's just another way to help balance out those hormones. And again, you just put it into a smoothie, and it's a kind of like a golden ticket for energy boost.
I sometimes see maca in supplements for men of a certain age who are trying to raise their testosterone levels. With the flax seeds, do you use the flax seeds just raw? Do you process them at all? Can you digest them on their own? How do you use them?
I use the flax seeds. I put them in my smoothies, just a raw flax seed. And then I also I sprinkle it on my salads. And it's also something that you can use to help bread like your chicken, or just sprinkle some on your fish.
About the avocado, I recently started adding that to my smoothie as well. I don't like, cutting up an avocado. I have to admit it's kind of nasty, but at least to me it is. But I found frozen avocado chunks at my local supermarket, and so in the morning I just take a handful and I just throw them in the blender, and that's how I get my avocado now. But in the past, I've never used avocado because I thought it was kind of yucky and didn't want to do it. But frozen avocado.
Yeah, and I never knew that you could get it frozen either. And so I started doing that a couple years ago because, again, I don't like the cutting of it and the smushiness of it. And again, I go back to simple. I have to make things super simple for myself, because if not, I'm not going to do it. And a lot of my clients are the same way. You have to create these simple habits in order to, make your life easy. And so, yeah, you go in the frozen
Yeah.
section. It comes in a bag. It's already chopped up and you can just throw it into a smoothie. You can also then let it defrost a little bit, put a couple, handfuls on your salad. Then you can also use it as a spread and it's already cut and you don't have to worry about it going bad either because now you just put it back into the freezer. It stays good the whole time and it's just a great way to get some good fat into your system.
Have you ever used pumpkin seeds?
Oh, I love pumpkin seeds. Oh my gosh. I eat pumpkin seeds almost every day just at my desk. They're like little potato chips but it's a healthy potato chip because they're crunchy and it get kind of, takes that, if you're into crunch, it gives you that good crunch and it's just a great way to, again, get some good nutrition in. Yep, I put pumpkin seeds in my salads, and that's another thing that you can actually put in a processor too, grind it up, and you can use it as a breading on your fish and your chicken. It just gives it a nice little kind of nutty taste to it.
I never thought about that. Maybe I'll do that next time I make chili in the crock pot.
Ooh, my favorite. You always tease me with
Yeah,
that, the chili. Hey, going back to make it simple. Simplify the way you're eating, and you're going to be able to stick to a healthy habit.
Is there an approach you take for helping somebody optimize their hormone levels depending on what age they are, 40s, 50s, 60s, or beyond? Or is it the same approach across the board?
It's pretty much the same approach. Basically, it's just being able to go back to your doctor diet, being able to create these healthy habits where you're actually taking real food, superfoods, in order to make your body work at its optimal. If you're always eating processed foods, you're eating a lot of sugars, those type of things, that's going to wreak havoc on your hormonal balance. And so, create these superfoods and create a kitchen that's going to work for you. So keeping, simple utensils. I've gone into some kitchens and they've every single gadget, right? All the gadgets that are on the counter. And, half the time we don't even know how to use half these gadgets. And you go to the supermarket, you buy all this stuff, and a lot of times half the food goes bad because you're not using it. And so creating some good healthy habits where you're going and keeping it very simple. So if you can create these superfoods and have them at your disposal, either in frozen, like the avocado, putting it in the freezer, or having your refrigerator stocked with all the essentials. And then meal prep, again, is going to be key, because if you're meal prepping, then you're not like all of a sudden you're frantic and you're hungry and then you're grabbing whatever in your kitchen or in your pantry. Another game changer I like to say is just don't bring it to the house. Like if you are, into cookies or into ice cream, what I typically will tell my clients is just don't buy it on your normal everyday routine going to the grocery store. If you really want it that bad, you're going to have to leave your house. You're going to have to make that conscious effort to get dressed, get in your car, drive to wherever that item is, and then get your fix on. But you have to make that conscious effort, right, to actually then go and get it. So that has changed a lot of my clients' habits versus having it in the house. So just don't bring it in the house and then make that conscious effort. Do I really need that treat, right? Or can I, whip something up in the kitchen that's going to be really healthy for me? So your superfoods, then they're such a wonderful way to create change in your body, and they're a game changer for your hormone and weight loss. So these foods, they're just not delicious. Maybe some you don't like, and those are the ones you're going to put in your smoothie, kind of disguise them. But they are your secret hormone friendly army. So they're ready to restore your balance and nurture your overall health. So imagine having specific superfoods like chia seeds, flax seeds, turmeric, your avocados, your kale, your beets, whatever superfoods that you really gravitate to. And just think of these superfoods as your very own kind of backstage crew, if you will. They're kind of setting the stage for a more vibrant and healthy lifestyle. And your kitchen then should turn into this wellness sanctuary. So when you open your refrigerator door, it should be green. It should have lots of colors versus having a box in your refrigerator, right? So these little superfoods are going to be your magicians, and you're going to make your hormone imbalance kind of disappear, right? So it's paving the way for a life that's not just healthier, but it's more vibrant. You want to have more energy. You want to feel good every single day. So bring more superfoods in, make that magic happen, and let's balance out and make your life very energetic. So instead of waking up in a fog, like I know I used to wake up in a fog every morning, and I was like, what is going on? And it was because I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating the right foods in order to balance out my hormones, and my energy was tanked. So by just changing a few little things like this, it can make a huge difference in the way you're living.
I agree. Looking back at during the pandemic when I would go to the supermarket, the shelves were bare. I even sent you pictures of the bare, prepared food shelves. They were just totally gone in the supermarket. The only place that I saw sufficient food items during the pandemic was the fruit and vegetable aisles, that whole section. It's like nobody was touching them except me and probably some other people, but they never ran out of oranges. They never ran out of, grapes or sweet potatoes or anything like that. But TV dinners gone, all kinds, and anything that was in a box was gone during the pandemic. And you make a good point. When I eat too much of things I know I shouldn't be eating, I feel weird. It's almost like kryptonite to Superman. I feel sluggish. I feel tired. My mind doesn't work so much. And that's one of the reasons why I normally start with a big smoothie with all kinds of stuff in it. I feel energized for several hours after I consume this. And usually make enough for breakfast and lunch usually, but I don't get hungry. And I sometimes think that might be due to the spinach. There's actually some compounds in spinach that might even curb appetite. They're called falcaloids. And there's even some data that it seems to suppress appetite for several hours after you eat it. I didn't know that at first before I was using the spinach, but after that, spinach is in every smoothie now. But you're right. If it basically, somebody I saw on Instagram say recently, if it's got a barcode on it, probably don't want to be eating very much of it.
Right.
So
And
yeah.
the other thing too is when you start looking at ingredients on boxes, if you can't pronounce it, you probably don't want to eat it, right?
We don't eat very healthy. And as I sometimes say in the classes I teach, when they describe the American diet in literature, they call it SAD, the standard American diet. Standard American diet, SAD, SAD. Isn't it so sad we eat so poorly in this country? It's something that I get on a soapbox all the time when I think about it, because take, for instance, Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg makes cereal now. Do you know this? Snoop cereal. And I say, why isn't Snoop Dogg making spinach? Why isn't Spider-Man on spinach? Why isn't Batman on broccoli? Why don't we see this? And again, and I bring it up because I look at this whole thing as like a national security issue. We're not a healthy nation as a rule. And, I wish celebrities would, just get on television and start talking about this. Why don't, I was saying this in a class the other day. When you turn on a TV or a movie show and they get in a car, they always fasten their seatbelt, because we made a conscious effort to try to reduce injuries from car crashes. Why isn't that same effort being taken on television and movies for exercise and eating better? We don't see that. And that drives me crazy. So when I do win the Powerball lottery, you will know, because that's when things will change. That's when the billboards go up, and that's when I'll go on national television in prime time. I say this because I remember as a kid, during the and I say this a lot, and for people who've heard me before say this, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again. During the bicentennial in 1976, for one solid year, I saw the bicentennial moment where celebrities came on television in prime time, usually right after the Waltons, and they talked about, on this day in 1976, George Washington did this or that, whatever, John Adams did this. Why don't we have some kind of health moment on primetime television every single night? I don't see that. It's going to take an Elon Musk or somebody like that to just say, I'm doing this, because nobody's stepping up. If I win that Powerball, it will happen. Yeah, I've said it for years. I've already picked out where I want my billboards to go on I-95 and other highways. And I drive around like I want a billboard there and there. But fortunately, we really don't need television anymore because we have, we've got YouTube, we've got TikTok and Instagram, and
Yeah, and we can go down a huge rabbit hole with that as to why it is not the forefront of our health industry within the
yeah,
government, right? We can go down a huge rabbit hole because the pharmaceutical companies run everything from our food to the chemicals that they put in the foods and all of that. And it is a huge business to keep us sick. And so,
yeah,
if we can then counterbalance and do the best that we can on a daily basis and do our very best to create healthy habits and to eat unprocessed foods, try to, minimize our sugar intake. Sugar is one of the number one issues in America that we have today, especially with kids. And it's just so sad to see that they're teaching those behaviors in school when they could be teaching healthier lifestyles in school as well with well balanced meals. And that,
I
that can
agree.
be a huge issue too. But sugar is going to be a huge thing if you can think about doing 0 to 1 sugars per meal. You're going to be on your way to hormone balance. So sugar can mean a huge difference in weight gain or weight loss. A lot of people think that it's fat that makes them fat. It is not. It is sugar that makes you fat. Your sugar is going to feed those fat cells, and that's when they kind of, blow up and explode. And if we can stay away from sugars, now I'm not talking about natural sugars like fruits. A lot of people get hung up. I've heard, trainers before, don't eat the banana, don't eat this. And it's like, why not? That's natural. Yeah, I'd rather you eat that than try to eat, something that's going to be processed and it comes in a box, right? So if we can try to
Right.
stay clear, and I always tell my clients, when you go to the grocery store, try to stay on the perimeter of the grocery store. Try not to go down the aisles because down the aisles is where you're going to get all your processed foods. And like you said earlier, if it has a barcode on it, that's going to probably be processed, unless it's just a barcode, on your orange or whatever so they can weigh it. But we want to try to stick with these superfoods. And it
Yeah.
can be super easy. I say superfoods can be super easy to integrate into your daily routine. And that's what I teach my clients is to try, we have enough chaos in our lives. And then if we have to then think, yeah, we have to create these huge meals every day and we have to like make everything ourselves, and it can be overwhelming. Take it from me, I know, because I'm not a foodie. My mom cooks really great and my friends cook really great, and I had to learn how to make simple choices and simple meals for myself to get in those nutrients, because I used to be a junk food junkie. I was the person that ate pizza all the time, ice cream, potato chips, all of that. I was still a health professional. I was still teaching class, and I just have good genetics. But it was not the outside I was worried about. It was the inside that needed to be changed because I was waking up tired, I was exhausted, and my hormones were on complete overload. Things were not firing properly, and so that can just create all of these imbalances in your system. So creating simple ways, and I always go back to simple, 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 because life is crazy. So integrating these superfoods into your daily diet does not have to be difficult. And
Right.
navigating your life's different stages doesn't have to be difficult as long as you are going back to the 4 doctors, right? So making sure you're moving your body every single day, eating great, getting some quiet time, and then sleep. And that sleep thing I always go back to because that can throw your hormones out of whack. So if I have a client and they're eating really great, they're eating their superfoods, they're moving, they're working out, then they're not sleeping properly and they're wondering why they can't lose weight. So if not all, if all 4 things are not working properly, all 4 doctors, then that's where you're going to have these imbalances. I have a client
Yeah.
who goes to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, goes to bed at 11 o'clock, wakes up at 4, doesn't go to bed, all of that. your hormones are going to be in a tailspin. And what happens is when they're in a tailspin, things don't properly recover at night. And so your body is going to hold on to that weight. So
Yeah.
if you can get your sleep under control, sometimes that also can be a huge, tweak that you can do for your hormone balance.
Yeah, you got to sleep, and we take it for granted, especially here in the United States, where we're usually go 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 all the time, and it's only getting worse.
Right. And then,
um,
when your hormones aren't working properly, then, that's when you can't fall asleep. And you just have all of these ups and downs. You go to bed at different times every day. You wake up at different times. And if you can create just one habit of going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, that's going to help to even out those hormones, especially your growth hormones at night. Because if you're not going to bed and you're not getting those hours that you need, then the growth hormone is not being released into your system.
right.
So that can be, a huge play in how weight loss happens when we age. And then the other thing too with my clients I have found is not eating enough protein. So if you're not eating enough protein, that can be a huge disservice to your system as well, because as we age, we lose muscle mass. And we need to rebuild that muscle mass first off by moving our bodies and doing some weight bearing activity for bone density as well. But then if you're not replenishing your body with the amino acids so that you can rebuild those muscles, you're going to keep losing muscle mass, and that your metabolism slows down, your metabolic rate slows down. And so then that's what causes this slow creep up of weight, because your body isn't metabolizing things properly in your system.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, sarcopenia, big problem as we get older. That loss of muscle mass, muscle function, as we get older. And one possible way to see it is, just look at how slow sometimes older people walk. They walk slower because they're afraid of falling sometimes, but also the muscle's not working the way it used to when they were younger. That loss of muscle is, as you know, is mostly the loss of those powerful, fast twitch muscle fibers you need to get out of a chair, get off the floor, etc. So yeah, getting enough protein is definitely, especially as we get older, is needed. I was encouraged that the latest iteration of the dietary guidelines for American actually said a good amount of older adults are not getting enough protein. Whereas in the past, if you listen to people, they say, oh, Americans eat enough protein. Not as we get older. We don't seem to. We lose our appetite. We lose our sensation of thirst oftentimes, which can lead to malnutrition. Loss of thirst can lead to dizziness and dehydration and increased risk of falls. So it all kind of plays together. We gotta eat more, and again get more protein in our diets, as well as drink more liquids as well.
Absolutely. And that's one of the keys, is doing that protein smoothie. So if you are somebody that has trouble trying to get your protein take in for the day, a great easy way is going to be doing a smoothie for sure.
I'm a big fan. I've even put a little protein powder in yogurt, had it that way, get a little bit more extra protein. And again, the chia seeds, the flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, they're also good sources of protein and different amino acids as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a client, and I had just last week gone through her food log and noticed that she was eating fairly well, but I noticed the lack of protein. And so we adjusted it. She was having oatmeal in the morning and with some fruit. And so what I had her do was add a little scoop of protein powder into her oats. And so that, helped to bump up her protein intake, and it's made a huge difference in her energy level and just rebuilding those muscle tissues from her workouts. So just again, going back, keep it simple, people. Keep it really simple, and you'll start to see changes. And if you're not seeing changes, you're either eating too much, you're not in a calorie deficit, or you're eating the wrong type of foods. It's the number one thing.
I agree. It's funny you mentioned the oatmeal. That's actually what I had for dinner last night. I did. I admit, I was like, I'm a little lazy. And so I had oat bran, similar to oatmeal, threw in some protein powder, some chocolate protein powder, some frozen blueberries, and some wheat germ. And I was good to go.
I'm coming over
So,
for dinner.
yeah,
That's my kind of dinner. Simple, effective, and to the point.
that's usually me. Do you have any other superfoods that you haven't mentioned so far?
There's a slew of superfoods. If you can just add a superfood for each meal, eat a protein source for each meal, don't forget to drink your water. So water, again, is going to help flush out toxins out of your system. It's going to help make things move and just make sure you're hydrated, because again, you can have low energy just because you're dehydrated, and a lot of people walk around every single day dehydrated. So if you can really pump up the water, that's going to be key too. Another superfood that I love to use on a daily basis is quinoa. Quinoa is a great source of, protein rich food, and it's super easy to make. Like, again, I'm not a foodie, but that's something that's like staple. I do a meal plan and I prep that at the beginning of the week, keep it in a closed container, and you can use that in almost every meal. You can take a little scoop, put it in your salad, mix it up. You can make it as a staple with some chicken or some salmon, and it just makes for a really great dinner. My favorite dinner is salmon, asparagus, and quinoa. And you can add a little salad if you want, kale, but keep it really simple. It's when we start going into those processed foods, the foods that come into the box, and then heavy, starches and breads and pastas and rice and all of that, and we're doing that on a daily basis, you're definitely going to wreak havoc on your hormones by eating that way. So think about greens, a good source of protein, some fruit and water, and you're going to be golden. And then, a good snack is going to be raw nuts.
And any specific nut you like?
I love raw almonds. I put almonds almost on everything too. That's a great superfood. Put it on top of your salad, crunch it up. Again, use it as the breading for your fish and your chicken.
But it's good you keep coming back to it simple, because we have so many disparate people out there on the internet, and everybody wants to be an influencer these days. And they're like, oh, you got to do keto, and oh, you got to do carnivore, and you got to do this and that. And a lot of these eating patterns, I think, are not sustainable, and sometimes they require over expensive supplements, which I don't think are necessary. But I think when you do look at the big picture, like, let's just not overthink this, and let's just use our gut instincts. I think you save time and you'll save money, and I think you're healthier in the long run than, again, succumbing to some of these, as I sometimes say, these shirtless salesmen that I see on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube talking about, greatest, best diet out there. And it's like, there's nothing special. And when you look at some of these influencers, you find out, yeah, they look real, some of them look good, but then we find out, oh, they were doing some other things that maybe they didn't talk about at first on their channels, which we won't get into here.
And the thing about diets, when it's labeled a diet or you're going to do it for a certain period of time, what happens is the reason diets fail, and I always go back to this because I've got all different types of weight loss, fat loss programs, and they are different than the average program because the average program labels it as a diet. You're going to do X, Y, and Z for 4 weeks, and then miraculously you're going to lose all this weight, and then you can go back to the way you were eating before and not gain it back. Well, that's misleading because the way you were eating prior to that diet did not serve you. And so the reason you went on this diet is so that you can lose weight. It worked. And why did it work? You were probably in a calorie deficit and you were starting to eat proper foods. And so then once you've lost that weight, you feel like you can go back to your old habits. Those old habits don't serve you. And so that's why the weight creeps up. So you have to create, if you want to keep weight off, I'm going to tell you the secret right now. It's creating those habits and sticking with them for a lifetime. It is a life choice to eat healthy. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that every single moment of your life. 80-20 is the rule. If you eat really clean and good for you superfoods for 80% of your meals, then guess what? you can have these little treats and they're not going to affect your weight one bit, because now you have your hormones revving, your metabolism revving, you're working out, you've got your muscle mass is increasing, your metabolism, your metabolic rate is increasing, and now things are running properly. And so you can have those little treats. It's when we start to starve ourselves on these diets, we go beyond what our calorie deficit should be, things start to slow down, your metabolism starts to shut down, and you start messing with your hormones. So if we can just keep it simple, eat really good, nutritious food on a daily basis, and have our little treats when we want them. It's not like we're celebrating birthdays every single day. And just on a weekly basis, being able to use the calories that we need for our workouts, use our calories for normal body function, you're going to come away feeling a lot better about yourself and have energy and look good and feel good. And that's the name of the game.
Janis, where can people learn more about you? And I know you have this master class that you're offering as well on balancing hormones. How can people learn more about that?
So if you go to my website, it's just janissaffell.com. And at the top of the page, you're going to see a little banner and it says, learn more about the top 8 superfoods for hormone health. It's a quick masterclass that I put together to help you learn how to put all of these things into creating these healthy habits on a daily basis and making simple choices with superfoods. And so I go through the masterclass. I go through 8 different superfoods that you can just go to the grocery store, pick up, and start adding into your meals to start to balance out your hormone balance. Now, it's a masterclass. You also get a guide. So I've written it out for you. And there's also an audio version. So if you don't want to sit in front of the computer, you can just pop me in the ear and listen. And I will give you some really great tips on how to start blasting more fat, bring your weight down, and then create hormone balance within your system so that you have more energy and you start to feel better. And it even goes through some testimonials from some of my clients who have actually gone through these programs with me. And then I also, as a gift for everybody, have included 15 hormone boosting recipes in this masterclass. So, and keep in mind, they're very simple because remember, I'm not a foodie. So they're very simple recipes that you can actually accomplish and figure out and wow your family with these new recipes and know that you're feeding yourself really good food. So I hope you guys join the masterclass. You get to take it at your own leisure, but if you just go to my website, that's where you'll find me.
And I'll link to that below this so people can easily find you. Janis, this has been a lot of fun. I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast and talking about all this stuff, because it is a topic that I think people don't think too much about, and we do get on this roller coaster of crazy diets which don't work long term, and we sometimes wake up in the morning and we're in a fog, and sometimes we don't know what's up, but yet we eat junk. And there's a lot of other foods out there we could be eating as opposed to just going through a drive-through, which I see all the time in my neighborhood. People are wrapped around these buildings in their cars. They don't even go in the store anymore. But I think the simple answer is the correct answer. Eat better and you'll be better.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and it was a pleasure speaking with you. And hopefully your listeners got some little tidbits and some little secrets that they can start implementing.
I'm sure they have. And if anybody needs to get a hold of me, you can grab me at either of my websites, joe-cannon.com or supplementclarity.com, or even here if you're watching me online. So until next time, take care out there, everybody, and I'll talk to you next time.